Good afternoon and welcome once again to another thrill-packed, exciting episode of the Ministry Shift. My name is Matthew Parker. I'm the Archdeacon of Stoke-upon-Trent, and I'm joined by four wonderful panelists who are going to be thinking with me about the kind of questions that this crisis has thrown up for us as Christian communities, the kind of questions that we're asking personally and individually, but perhaps also asking as a church. But let me introduce who we've got with us this afternoon. Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Alex Wolvers. I live in the Staffordshire Moorlands, and part of my role is to look after a fresh expression that meets some brown edge in Staffordshire.
Welcome, and Malcolm.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Mycock. I'm a curate working in the Bucknell Team Ministry in Stoke-on-Trent.
And new to the Ministry Shift, Amanda.
Hello there, I am Amanda Mullen and I am a first-year ordinand and an authorised lay minister in Bilston and also a community outreach worker in Wolverhampton.
You're very welcome. And an old stager, Jim.
I'm Jim Trude. I'm the rector at St Matthew's Church in Walsall.
Welcome to you all and welcome to those of you who are watching. So just to kick us off, it occurs to me that this whole crisis has had a kind of clarifying effect. It's helped us think about some things in quite new and fresh and different ways. And it's raised all sorts of questions for us, no doubt, as ministers, but especially to those to whom we minister. So I just wonder, perhaps, Jim, if I could start with you, what sort of questions or concerns are surfacing as you relate to and speak to people in your congregation?
Well, they've slightly changed over the time we've been in lockdown. It started off very much with real fear and people inside the church picking up on the fear from people outside of the church and asking, is this the end of the world? And I had that asked of me on 2 or 3 occasions.
How did you reply, Jim?
I said, not as far as I know it, but who knows? It's God's timing. And then kind of as we've gone through it, I think the fed upness with being in lockdown is, why doesn't God just stop it all? Can he stop it all? And those kind of questions.
Alex, have you heard similar kind of questions and thoughts?
Yes, I have, very much like Jim. You know, there's been that sense of, what is all this about? Is God trying to teach us something through this? You know, is this something that as a church we need to learn from, how to go forward? And then I've had a couple of people ask me really personal questions, people they know who are young Christians. Sadly, one has committed suicide. And so there was a question of, why is God allowing this to happen? And why is he testing people almost beyond what appears to be their capability of coping with?
Yeah, that's a really important and difficult question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why so much suffering, and why is God allowing it? I mean, Amanda, have you come across those kind of questions or similar?
Similar sorts of levels of anxiety and fear, but as the time evolved into feelings of inadequacy, it's a little bit like, what can we possibly do to be connected and to help our fellow congregants when we can't actually physically help them? So to be connected and to help our fellow congregants, they're struggling a little bit with all of this, and the continuing length of time, it's just making things a little bit worse.
Yeah, that sense of powerlessness is quite strong, or can feel quite strong. What can we do? I mean, Malcolm, is that something that you either personally experience, or you're hearing people saying, we feel so hopeless in the situation or helpless?
Yeah, definitely. I think people being isolated is what people are finding just really difficult, actually. And how can they still be church? How can they make a difference? One friend of mine who's training for ministry actually at the moment just said he felt like it had all been taken away from him. He didn't quite know what to do. So it's been quite important talking to people and saying, listen, God actually, even though this is a really difficult time, I'm not saying God's caused this, I'm certainly not, but good is coming out of it, and we've still got a job to do. And let's join in with that mission and the good that we're seeing happening actually in our communities. So, yeah.
So we're hearing messages of fear, anxiety, questions about where God is in all this, sometimes a sense of helplessness, hopelessness, and even questions about the end of the world in Walsall. So are there any sort of more positive messages coming across to you at the moment?
Yes, I'd say there is. Certainly within the wider Christian community, there's a real sense that we can learn from this. And so what is God saying to us as a church? Where do we perhaps need to refocus our energies? And those things that have perhaps been stripped away that actually perhaps weren't so important after all, allow us to actually then redirect our energies perhaps going forward.
And also, sorry, Matthew, and
No,
also
ahead,
within our group, there's a sense of really being thankful for the time just to sit and listen. And when we do our meetings on a Sunday, it's through Zoom, and it's people are not having to rush off or get ready for Monday morning. So there's a real thankfulness and a gratefulness for actually the time that we've got to get to know one another a little bit more, to listen to God and to listen to one another as well. So within it all, there's a sense of actually communities growing stronger because of it as well.
Yeah, I think that's amazed me actually, in this isolation, that actually communities are growing and growing stronger, and people are actually getting to know people better, aren't they? Somehow, even though they're not being able to meet them in church. We got this it's like a phone buddy system up and running, and that's been amazing because people have been connecting with one another who they wouldn't normally talk to. There's good stuff happening.
Yeah,
it's a real paradox, isn't it, that this virus, which is forcing us apart in many ways, in a curious way, is also forcing us together or bringing us together in new ways, which is good. Certainly, I've had conversations on the telephone with people that have gone into a great deal more depth than the more casual conversations I might normally have. And what are you saying, really? I mean, in all sorts of different ways, all of you, I guess, I don't know in what way, but you're trying to keep in touch with people, I guess, and that's how you're hearing these questions. Amanda, when people say, we're feeling a bit inadequate, I mean, how do we respond? I mean, there's no magic answer, I know, but what sort of things are we saying in response to those kind of concerns?
Well, me personally, when I'm actually the one to respond, I just encourage people to pray and to remember that this is our opportunity to do more and to do better and to be better and to use the time to actually listen to what God is wanting us to do, so that when we do emerge from this situation, we're in a better position to take hold of things and create the world we want it to be, rather than the one that we've left behind. This is our opportunity to create a whole better place, and hopefully just let them know that actually they should not be afraid. We're told repeatedly to not be afraid, which is easier said than done, but we do our best.
What about others? What do you say?
I suppose I've been trying to say it's okay to feel like you're struggling. That's okay. But there is also hope. And I think that message of hope is kind of fundamental to the Christian faith. And I think people are getting that. The whole Easter period that we've been through has actually mirrored and allowed us to speak into the situation in a way, perhaps in a fresh way that we haven't been able to speak into before. So the idea of hope, yes, we're going through a dark patch, but there is hope, and there is always hope within the Christian faith.
I read something this afternoon, a really nice quote about hope. Hope is patient positivity under pressure. And I really kind of like that. We kind of sit in it. We don't deny it. It's there. But actually, Christ still offers peace, doesn't he? Even in the midst of this real sort of chaos and difficult time. And actually, I think people are excitingly actually discovering that and rediscovering that through prayer. That actually, it's amazing, isn't it? We truly do experience peace, shalom, through Christ and praying, like Amanda says, going to him in prayer. And there's a lot of good stuff happening. And I think reminding people about that's important, isn't it?
And the resources we've got as Christians are huge. We've talked about prayer, but also, I guess, scripture. And I just wondered, to round up, if there are particular Bible passages that you found really particularly have spoken to you at the moment, or that have come alive to you in a fresh new way. Alex?
There's been two really. The first one was the Mary and Martha story. We were looking at Bible Society, and we've been going through their small group studies. And a couple of weeks ago is the Mary and Martha story. And it's this sense of actually, even in lockdown, sometimes we're reluctant just to sit. So even at this time when we've got more time than we've ever had before, there's something that is actually stops us from just sitting at God's feet. But it was that discussion around how important it is, and actually the blessing and the thanksgiving we have got that we've actually got time to sit now and listen. And so that really spoke to us as a group, that even in lockdown we can fill our time with so much stuff, whereas in fact sometimes we just need to praise God and give thanks for the time to sit. And then the next image was the image of the river, which we're exploring as well, and just sitting in the river and allowing the river just to flood over us rather than just to paddle in, which we sometimes do in the busyness of life.
Great.
Yeah, we've had a number of kind of like Bible passages come out repeatedly, but one that I found very helpful has been from Isaiah chapter 43. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. And the idea of when you pass through testing times, through the waters or the fire, don't worry. I'm still there. I'm with you.
Great. Amanda, have you been struck by any particular scriptures?
There's a couple that I've been using, particularly with the group of congregation that are quite unchurched. They are very new to the whole church thing, and a lot of the scripture that wouldn't mean anything to them because they're not that well versed in the Bible. But I did find that Noah was quite useful, the story of Noah, because he was isolated with his family for all that time while the rains came down, and even after the rains had stopped, he still couldn't leave the ark. He still had to wait for the waters to recede. So it was all about the patience and the waiting and the being present in the waiting. But also that, again, as I said earlier on, this is a new world we're stepping out into, and it's up to them to work out how that happens. And the other one I found quite useful has been the Good Samaritan, because we can't all be the Good Samaritan. We're not all in a position where we can be the ones that do the helping. Maybe at this point, we have to be the ones that are passing by, the ones that are staying at home to allow our key workers to do what they do best. And again, it's about being mindful that wherever we are and whatever we do, there's always something that we can do. It may not be the all singing, all dancing, all action type of thing, but we still do our part.
Thanks. Great, Amanda. And Malcolm, finally, a passage that's spoken to you.
Yeah, we've been sort of working through John's Gospel in morning prayer, and actually Mary and Martha again. Actually, when Jesus comes back and he's going to raise Lazarus, just the reassurance that even though Jesus knows what he's going to do, he knows the end of the story, he still weeps, and that's just really struck me. That actually we're not on this on our own, and God's not some distant God, but he's with us in this. And he weeps.
And there are no simple answers. And
no,
we've got to stay sometimes with the sorrow and the pain. Buoyed up, of course, by the hope that Jim talked about. That's all we've got time for, I am afraid. So thank you very much to our 4 panelists. There will be a ministry shift extra on Thursday at 4:30. Do join us then when we're thinking about the rural church and the response to the rural community. Bye-bye.